Hello and welcome to Wednesday's programme.
Your headlines tonight. Our spotlight on stalking continues. We hear from two teachers who discovered a student had taken thousands of secret recordings of them before using the images to create AI girlfriends.
It's almost like I feel dirty, and it doesn't matter how much I shower, I can't get rid of the dirt. That's how it feels.
Also tonight, waves crash over the seawall at Tor Cross as high winds batter parts of the Devon coast.
The Exeter charity encouraging people to use the volunteering days offered by employers. As figures show, few are taking them up. And
the young people in Cornwall performing for a royal guest.
good evening. First tonight, two teachers from Devon who were targeted by one of their pupils who stalked them online say they still feel the impact of his crimes. The student secretly filmed his victims at work and used AI technology to create images of them.
This week, we are shining a spotlight on stalking. Tonight, we're hearing about the increasing threat of cyber stalking as experts say technology is making it easier than ever to track and target victims. So what is cyber stalking? Well, it's stalking, so fixated and obsessive behaviour enabled by technology.
In reality, 100% of stalking cases, according to the National Stalking Helpline, now have some element of cyber. So actually, stalking and cyber stalking are really the same thing. You might find that an ex-partner has put a tracking device onto your car or is using your phone to track you. It could be a series of harassing and threatening messages. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an ex-partner. That's the most common scenario, but we've seen cases where it's been strangers, it's been work colleagues, acquaintances, family members.
So it could look anything from, persistent messages through creating fake accounts of a person and persistently sending friend requests, exposing information, or actually physically using technology in a malicious way to target a victim.
Said to me, Courtney, get on your Instagram right now. Have you had these requests come through? I've received some really, really weird requests.
I met teachers Amber and Courtney. A 17-year-old student had been acting strangely for some time, but things escalated when they saw their names mentioned on a social media account they suspected was his.
One of them was, I love Amber. Every time I see her, I just want to push her up against a wall and use her body.
And then I'm going to kidnap them and use them for my own good or something. Something along those lines. Which obviously was, we were shocked, to say it the least.
Yeah.
They were told to contact the police and the full extent of stalking soon became clear.
Thousands of photos of me at work, videos of me at work, just doing my job, just with layers and layers and layers and layers of my voice.
He had added edited photos of me. There was, quite obscene photos, things that he had edited onto me, my face, my body.
He'd even made them into virtual girlfriends.
He had made, with these voice recordings, which were as short as some of them 3 seconds, me saying to another student, are you okay? He then used that 3-second voice recording on an app to create a me on his phone that he can have a full-blown conversation with, that looks like me, talks like me, sounds like me, and responds.
Yeah, they can be, submissive, they can be sexual, they can be flirtatious, they can be whatever they want him to be. And but that's us, that's our voice, that's our body, that's our face. And he has literally crafted it into what he wants us to be.
Evidence of their stalker, Ethan Fenwick's fixation, was overwhelming. In January, now aged 19, he pleaded guilty to stalking involving serious alarm or distress. Their stalker was given a 3-year community order, which included rehabilitation treatment and lifetime restraining orders to protect both victims.
The anxiety that's come from it has been life-changing, to the point where I've had to take tablets just to do simple things like go to work, go shopping, take my children to the park. The mental effects it has on you last a long time.
Do you think sometimes people don't take cyber stalking as seriously as victims?
Absolutely, it's brushed under the carpet and just disregarded, when actually, when it builds up and up and up, it's just as serious as any stalking offence. It's because there's no physical threat there just yet, but it doesn't mean it's not going to get to that point. So it's important to capture evidence as early and as quickly as you can, as long as it's safe to do so, and to document it and to talk about it, to create a stalking diary, if you like.
Think about kind of account entanglement. So if you've broken up with a partner, think about, you know, is there technology that you've shared in the past? Have you turned on family sharing? Are you sharing your location with that person? Those are kind of some of the basic things to look at first, but also just thinking about things like two-factor authentication and security settings, writing notes about not only what's happened, but the impact that it's had on you as well.
It's better to speak up, share your thoughts and feelings with somebody else and get told, no, you're safe, than to not speak up
Because
at all
then you
and
know
that it could turn into something much more serious or dangerous.
Yeah. I still wake up every day feeling tainted. You know, it's something, like I said, I will carry with me for the rest of my life, and I can't just drop, I can't just brush it off. It's almost like I feel dirty, and it doesn't matter how much I shower, I can't get rid of the dirt. That's how it feels.
That's great advice, isn't it, from Amber and Courtney there. So brave to speak up about it. It's better, as they said, to speak up and be told that you're safe than not say anything and it turn into something more serious.
Well, earlier we spoke to Jane Harvey, who's the CEO of the Holly Gazzard Trust. And Jane told us about the frequency of cases like Amber and Courtney.
In my career, I've spoken to over 1,000 people who have been targeted by stalkers, and without exception, everyone has told me how terrifying it is, how unsettling it is, and just how profoundly disturbing that the whole situation is and how it's affected them.
Yeah, whether it's cyber or not as well.
I think people think, well, if it's just online, it doesn't impact somebody as much, but that certainly is not borne out by my experience of speaking to people. In fact, I would say that there is an added element of fear. It's an extra layer if someone is targeting you online. And, you know, in cases where the person is unknown to the victim as well, I've dealt with a number of those cases. They're just extremely challenging to deal with because so much of our lives are online these days, aren't they?
One of the things I found really hard during this journey of putting a spotlight on stalking was blocking. So our instinct is somebody's become a concern online, so you block them, but that's not the advice, is it?
It sounds like a common sense thing to do, doesn't it? But we don't advise that for two reasons. Firstly, it is that the nature of stalking is driven by an obsession, as your reports have shown. Blocking somebody doesn't stop that fixation. If I want to know what you're doing, who you're doing it with, and I've got a means of contacting you, and all of a sudden that is stopped, I'm not just going to give up. In fact, I'm probably likely to escalate. And there have been a number of cases where blocking a stalker has led to an escalation in behaviour and violence. Secondly, we're then losing a whole stream of evidence that can be used by police to tackle stalking, and stalking should always be reported to police. So it's important to keep the avenues of communication open, gather that evidence, because then it can be reported into police.
You mentioned the word fixation there. In fact, the theme of this year's National Stalking Awareness Week is fatal fixation. What is that exactly? Just remind us of that.
Stalking in itself is a serious crime, but it is linked to serious violence, and by that I mean homicide. So there was a piece of research by the University of Gloucestershire that found that 94% of cases where women were killed by a partner or an ex-partner featured stalking prior to the fatal attack. So identifying stalking as early as possible, and Holly Gazzard Trust has been working with police in Devon and Cornwall and all frontline services throughout Devon, Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly to raise awareness about identifying stalking. It's so important, because stalking, as you know, starts off really subtly. It can appear trivial almost when you deal with it in isolation. But what we're looking for, what we're encouraging people to do, is to identify that toxic mindset that then propels someone to behave in this repeated and unwanted way.
And of course, they can also reach out to all the charities like yourselves as well. Jane, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, we continue our week putting a spotlight on stalking when we focus on the psychology of stalking. We look at the 5 different types and hear from experts who are working with stalkers to break the pattern of obsessive and fixated behaviour.
And over on our website, you can find a summary of everything we've already featured this week, from what stalking really is, what to do about it, and what the police can do. There's also lots of information and support if you've been affected by anything you've seen.
Now, a service was held in Saltash earlier to mark 80 years since a group of Cornish firemen lost their lives in the Blitz. The memorial took place at St Stephen's Church to honour the men who died in 1941 when their vehicle went over an unexploded bomb in Devonport, killing them instantly. Neil Stanlake, who's worked to help restore the graves, explained why the day was so special.
It's been worthwhile because the graves prior to today were in a dreadful state and not becoming of the sacrifice these lads made. And I wanted to do something to make sure they are always remembered. Personally, it's a wonderful day. It's quite an emotional day. My uncle was the youngest of 4 brothers. I never knew him, but I have a great deal of respect for him and what he did in the war.
Weymouth's largest secondary school is set to be hit by a series of strikes by teachers which started today. Parents of children at Budmouth Academy have been informed that the teaching union will be taking industrial action on 4 days this month. It also comes as students prepare to sit their GCSEs. Budmouth says the school will largely remain open on strike days.
Next tonight, parts of the Devon coast were hit by stormy weather overnight, with waves crashing over the sea wall at Tor Cross.
Well, residents and businesses have been affected. The Start Bay Inn had to evacuate and turn the power off because of the ferocity of the weather. Well, let's talk to Jackie Bird, who's there for us now. Jackie, it still looks a bit windy. What is the latest?
Well, Seb, they're anxiously waiting to find out what will happen at high tide tonight. There is still a flood alert in place from the Environment Agency. Now, we were here earlier today, just after high tide, and you can see just how brutal the waves were crashing over the village of Tor Cross. Well, they were considerably worse than that last night.
We had to, just go through all the emergency evacuation plan. We had to close up a little bit early, get the customers out. And yeah, it's really worrying when the pub's shaking like that. It really feels like you shouldn't be here. We'd had a flood warning, we'd had a weather warning. And yeah, I checked the tides and the weather and knew it was definitely time to get out and then come back again to check the damage at midnight and see what had happened, and then again this morning come back in, get the pub ready to open, evacuate again, and then come back and see if there was any damage and if it was possible to open, which luckily we were only a little bit late.
The gravel was coming right over with the sea onto the Velux windows, and we're up on the 3rd floor. And it was, amazingly scary, really.
But of course, this is not the first time, even this year, that Tor Cross has been battered by the weather. The first 3 named storms of this year in January wiped out the Slapton line, the road that goes between Tor Cross here and Dartmouth, effectively wiping out the village. Well, there is sea defence. You can see it behind me, the sea wall that protects the village. I was here in February this year talking to a climate control expert about those sea defences. Local people here want to see a rock armour put in front of that sea wall. There is a plan in place to get that to happen. We're still waiting to hear what the funding will be for that, but the Environment Agency hope it'll be in place before the end of the year.
Well, fingers crossed for that. Jackie, thank you very much.
Well, you're watching ITV News in the West Country with Seb and Alex.
Yes, and Charlie's here too. Charlie, we just heard about those winds. Frightening, but I guess not unexpected.
No, talking about them all week, but the combination of high tide and the easterly direction of those winds is what's caused those big waves, and there's no escaping how terrifying it could be. But thankfully, they are easing down, those winds, as we work our way through the rest of this week. A lot calmer, a lot sunnier, a bit warmer too.
And there's still plenty more to come, including the Cornish charity marking its 10th birthday with a performance for a royal audience. Almost 2/3 of businesses now offer paid volunteering days to employees, which is the chance for staff to do voluntary work without losing out financially. But guess what? The majority of those days aren't being taken up.
No, charities like Extra Food Action say that they couldn't keep going without volunteers, while campaigners say that employees can get a lot from helping out. Kevin Ashford reports.
Getting food to people who need it. This charity in Exeter collects excess food from shops and suppliers and redistributes it to food banks and community groups. They rely heavily on volunteers, including those from a local law firm.
Without volunteers, it would not be a thing. Extra Food Action would not be a thing. We have 2 part-time members of staff, 1 full-time member of staff, and 65 volunteers. And they genuinely are the beating heart of Extra Food Action. Without that, it wouldn't work.
I think it's a massive team building exercise as well. You get to work with people who you might work in the same firm, but you don't necessarily work together. And it's a great chance on equal ground outside of the office to just build something a little bit different.
Nearly 2/3 of companies in the UK now offer paid volunteering time to their employees. But a study showed that currently less than 1/3 of volunteer days were claimed. And that, campaigners say, means 140 million hours of potential volunteering were unused. An online tool has been set up to try to change that by helping would-be volunteers find an activity that fits in with their interests and is convenient.
There's a real barrier to people being able to access volunteering opportunities. Lots of employees have told us that whilst they're really keen to go out there and volunteer, they can't find things to do in their local area or things that fit in with their busy lives. Go for Business enables organisations to literally sort of click and really select a cause that's important to them and enables them to volunteer at any given time that they want in their busy working lives.
The aim is to double the number of volunteering hours that are taken up, to help centres like this one, where volunteers are relied on to run many of the activities. Research shows that volunteering can help improve people's mental well-being as well as their productivity. And one estimate reckons that if all volunteering days were taken, the economic boost to the country could be worth more than £30 billion. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Yes,
What are you thinking?
Yes, worth considering, honestly. Well, the ITV News continues after us with the national and international stories at 6:30. Here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up on the ITV Evening News, UK inflation rises as the war in Iran drives up fuel prices. Why scientists are saying climate change is extending hay fever misery. And how the Corrie star Beverly Callard's second stint in the jungle led to her cancer diagnosis. Will you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
We certainly will, Mary. But first, some sport, and Plymouth Argyle's promotion hopes took a bit of a dent last night. The Pilgrims were on the road at Bradford looking to close the gap on the playoff spots. Although they could only draw 1-1, meaning that they are now 4 points off with 2 games to play.
A bronze statue of a surfer riding the wave has been unveiled in Newquay overlooking Town Beach to celebrate the town's surfing heritage. It was gifted by a couple who started a business selling surf gear there in the 1970s. They were inspired by similar statues they had seen in California and Australia. If it was a statue of me, it would be just a surfboard.
You'd have gone under. Very good.
Very
that was gorgeous. Were you able to see it?
Absolutely.
It's beautiful, wasn't it? Now, it's been an exciting day for the Cornish charity Drama Express, which celebrated its 10th anniversary today with a visit from His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh. There he is.
Prince Edward watched a performance by the group, which is made up of young people with additional needs. He then met many of them to find out about the charity's work. Grace Pascoe reports.
Drama Express sang their hearts out today in Chasewater. The packed audience included His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, who gave the performance the royal seal of approval.
It's been really great to meet His Royal Highness, and I really enjoyed celebrating with everyone because this group is so meaningful to me, because I think without Drama Express I wouldn't be able to cope in life.
Before I started drama, I didn't really talk to anyone, I didn't really leave the house, but now that I'm here, I'm being able to go out and meet up with my friends more. I get to talk, I chat more confidently to different people, and it's just brought a lot of joy.
I felt a bit nervous, but I pushed myself. And
how are you feeling about how it went?
I feel it went well, actually. It's like I've been waiting for this kind of moment.
I was actually really excited until when I got there, and I was like, oh, it's not so bad after all.
Drama Express supports young people with additional needs to find their creative voice through the performing arts.
Just ecstatic. There's no other words. For him to come and watch Drama Express, it's the pinnacle of 10 years effort, and really just an amazing experience for the young people, and they delivered an excellent performance.
1, 2, 3, go!
This celebration marks 10 years since the charity was founded.
It's difficult for us to understand sometimes the things that these young people have to go through, and when they sing about it and dance about it, it really gets you.
Every single person involved really gives 100% every time they're here and every time they're together. And to have that acknowledged in such an incredible way, I think was really a profound moment and really special.
Prince Edward went on to visit the butter market, with traders here keen to show that Red Ruth is now firmly on the map as a foodie hotspot. Grace Pascoe, ITV News.
Oh, well done to them. It looks really brilliant.
Yeah.
I bet they had a great day.
I bet they did as well. Right. Weather now. Charlie is here. Charlie.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because I thought today was absolutely glorious. You said it was going to be beautiful, but did also warn us about the winds, and they took the edge off.
They really did. And it gave us quite a big contrast in terms of where you were, even just across the region, really. This is a little snippet of what was going on today. And we had plenty of strong winds rattling through the English Channel. We had some pretty decent gusts, not unheard of in April, of 40 to 50 miles an hour, but the direction and how that coincided with the high tide is what gave us some issues across parts of Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly in particular. But then look at the temperature differences as well, underneath the kind of cloudy and at times a bit of damp weather across the far west of Cornwall. Temperatures near average, a bit below, but in the sunshine, just to say how much of a difference that makes, then we're up into the high teens. So, yeah, it was a bit of a contrasted day, wasn't it?
So there is a bit of rain there, but not really landing, is it?
No. Actually, that's a really good point, because the air is so dry beneath that, although it is falling, not much of it actually is getting down towards the surface, which brings me on to the next chart here. Now, we've seen these a couple of times, haven't we? Anything which is white or brown on here is below average rainfall. So much of the UK has been really dry so far this month. As it stands, we're sat somewhere around about 50%, and we're already getting towards the end of April. And there's no real appreciable rain coming as we head through the next few days. You'll see that in the forecast anyway, but also just in terms of temperatures and not really much change the big overall pattern. We're sticking with high pressure and we're sticking with more of the same. Good news for some, but not all of us.
A clear start makes way for a day of ancient discoveries. TUI sponsors ITV West Country Weather.
Well then, some improvements as we head through the rest of this week, with those strong winds down towards the south coast finally easing as we head through tonight, leaving us with a good deal of dry, sunny weather for the rest of this week, and also some slightly higher temperatures working through as well. Certainly a warmer feel out there because high pressure is building back in across the UK. It's pushing this weather system back out into the Atlantic. So that's where we're going to end up with much lighter winds, good deal of sunshine, so some high daytime temperatures, but some low night temperatures, and that range is going to enlarge quite a bit as we head through the rest of this week. As for the rest of the cloudy and at times a bit of damp weather we've seen today, well, that will just gradually break apart, I think, as we head through tonight. We're going to end up with dry skies and probably a lot less cloud as we head through towards tomorrow morning. The wind's lighter as well, but still not that light. Temperatures won't drop all that far across Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, but North Devon, parts of Somerset, down to low to mid-single figures once again. So a little bit chilly the further east you are, I think. Tomorrow, a glorious day. Barely a cloud in the sky, so big improvements on that front. Much lighter winds down on the south coast and across the Isles of Scilly, so improvements there too, where it will feel much warmer, with highs of 16 to 18 Celsius quite widely, but maybe up to 19, even 20 across North Devon and maybe Somerset too. The UV levels, though, up too high, so sun protection certainly required. High tide tomorrow, Bideford just after 11 in the morning, and again about 11:30 at night. No huge changes really for the rest of the week. High pressure still with us, holding on to a good deal of sunshine, pretty light winds and pretty high temperatures. So a dry, warm feel for most of us, and therefore a great excuse to go out and see the bluebells while they're still here. Blackberry Camp here from Beverley. Absolutely wonderful, aren't they?
TUI sponsors ITV West Country Weather.
No, clearly I can't get enough of them. I think I might be slightly addicted, but it's easy to see why, isn't it? And as we head through next week, this idea of no appreciable rain kind of continues. There's still a really decent signal for high pressure to stick around pretty much slap bang across the UK. There'll be small movements, but by and large it's more the same as we head through towards the end of this month and into the start of May.
Serenity.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to be a fan of.
Just beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Charlie, thank you.
Charlie in his happy place. Well, that's it from the three of us. Victoria will have late news for you at 11.
After the break, the ITV News continues. Bye for now. Goodbye.